The rain had been falling for hours, soft but relentless, washing the glass walls of the towering building where hearts often felt colder than the steel they worked among. Inside, beneath polished marble floors and silent elevators, a man pushed a cleaning cart down the empty hallway. His uniform was faded, his shoes worn out, but his eyes held a quiet strength. His name was Aaron Blake, and while most people barely noticed him, he noticed everything: the exhaustion in others, the hurried footsteps, the loneliness hidden behind success. What no one knew, not even the payroll department, was that every month, half of Aaron's modest paycheck vanished into envelopes marked for an orphanage across town. It wasn't a tax deduction or charity stunt, it was his promise to the children he once called family. If you believe that kindness still matters, that people can rise through compassion and grace, then pause for a second, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because stories like this one remind us why the smallest hearts often carry the biggest strength. Aaron was a single dad to a little girl named Maya, a bright-eyed 7-year-old with curly hair and a smile that could outshine the morning sun. His life revolved around her, packing her lunch before dawn, walking her to school, then taking the bus to the tall glass building where he cleaned offices that smelled of money and ambition. He had no complaints, no regrets. Every time Maya asked, "Daddy, why do you send money to those children when we don't have much?" he would smile and say, "Because once, someone did that for me." The orphanage he donated to had saved him as a boy, fed him when no one else would, and given him the hope to one day build a life worth living. Now, even when he could barely afford a new pair of shoes, he kept his promise. At the top of that same building, Evelyn Carter, the CEO, lived a life of contrasts. Her name carried weight, powerful, elegant, and often feared. She had built her empire with precision and intellect, but somewhere along the way, compassion had turned into numbers, and humanity into strategy. To most employees, she was untouchable, gliding through boardrooms with a gaze sharp enough to cut silence in half. Yet behind that glass office door, she was haunted by the emptiness that success hadn't filled. Her wealth couldn't buy the one thing she'd lost years ago, her sense of belonging. Their worlds collided one gray morning when Evelyn arrived unusually early. The building was quiet, except for the faint hum of a vacuum cleaner echoing down the hall. As she turned the corner, she saw Aaron kneeling by the reception area, gently scrubbing a coffee stain someone had left behind. There was something about his focus, the calmness in his movements, that made her stop. She noticed his tired eyes, the slight limp in his walk, and the photo of a little girl taped inside his cart. Over the next few weeks, she found herself crossing paths with him more often, not intentionally, she told herself, but curiosity had a strange pull. One evening, while walking out, she saw him standing outside the security office, handing an envelope to a nun. He bowed slightly, embarrassed, as the nun thanked him. Evelyn's brow furrowed. It wasn't payday. Why was a janitor giving money away? Later, her curiosity turned into quiet investigation. She asked her assistant to pull the janitorial payment records, something she'd never done before. When the report arrived, she was stunned. Aaron's salary was meager, yet every single month, a large portion of it was missing, sent directly to a local orphanage. The assistant explained that Aaron had set up an automatic transfer years ago, never mentioning it to anyone. Evelyn couldn't believe it. Half his paycheck, gone, willingly. She stared at the file, a strange heaviness pressing on her chest. That evening, she couldn't shake the thought. While she sipped her imported coffee in her penthouse overlooking the city, she saw Aaron's tired hands in her mind, scrubbing floors so those children could eat. The contrast hit her harder than any business loss ever could. She, who had everything, had forgotten how to give. He, who had nothing, gave everything he could. The next morning, Evelyn drove across town to find the orphanage listed in Aaron's records. It wasn't a grand place, just a small building with peeling paint, laughter echoing through the cracks of worn windows. The nun she met was the same one Aaron had given the envelope to. "Ah, Mr. Blake," the sister said warmly. "He's been helping us for years. Always comes quietly, never asks for anything. Says it's his way of thanking God for giving him a second chance." Evelyn felt her throat tighten. For the first time in years, she couldn't hold back her tears. Back at the office, she called Aaron in. He looked nervous, clutching his cap, certain he'd done something wrong. She looked at him for a long time before speaking. "Why do you do it?" she finally asked softly. Aaron hesitated, unsure if he should answer. Then, quietly, he said, "Because I know what it's like to be hungry, ma'am. Because I can't forget the faces of the kids who are still waiting for help. And because my little girl should grow up knowing that kindness means more than comfort." Evelyn felt something shift deep inside her. That night, she went home and looked at her own reflection, the woman who had conquered the world, yet somehow lost touch with her heart. She decided it was time to change that. The following week, Evelyn announced a new foundation under the company's name, one that would support underprivileged children and single parents working hard to survive. She named it the Blake Promise Fund. When the news reached Aaron, he couldn't believe it. His hands trembled as Evelyn approached him during a company meeting, thanking him publicly for reminding her, and everyone, what true wealth meant. But it didn't stop there. Evelyn personally visited the orphanage again, bringing supplies, funding repairs, and ensuring the children had new clothes and food for the year. When she walked into that small room full of laughter and light, she found Aaron already there, sweeping the floor, as always. She smiled and said, "You've done more for this world than you'll ever know." He smiled back, shyly, and whispered, "We just do what we can, ma'am." From that day, Evelyn changed how she led, not just as a CEO, but as a human being. She spent more time listening, more time helping, more time feeling. And every time she saw Aaron in the hallway, she didn't just see a janitor, she saw a teacher, a reminder that compassion is the truest form of leadership. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps spread real stories of love, redemption, and humanity in a world that desperately needs them.